This is Part 2, Episode 61. How could Hui Yuhao not be shocked after hearing Niu Qian tell him that his physical tenacity was close to that of a soul master that possessed a martial soul true body? It was like a 1,000-year soul beast possessing the body of a 10,000-year soul beast. Niu Qian smiled and said, "Don't worry, I never exaggerate. This is my honest opinion. Of course, this doesn't mean you possess the abilities of a martial soul true body. It's just that your body can withstand the impact of a soul sage soul power. This will be very beneficial for your cultivation. Didn't you realize that your ultimate martial soul's effect on your cultivation speed has evidently weakened during your cultivation process?" Hui Yuhao was a little embarrassed as he scratched his head and answered, "I went into a meditative state, as if I were asleep not long after I cultivated yesterday due to the metamorphosis I experienced. I didn't feel much." Niu Qian said, "That's normal. Your powers have increased rather significantly this time. One's appearance stems from his mind. Don't look down on these minor changes to your appearance. Your body must evolve a little before your appearance changes. Let me give you an example. In the world of soul beasts, most soul beasts' cultivations can be recognized through their appearance. For example, some soul beasts will increase in size when they move into the 1,000-year level. For those whose blood lineage is pure and powerful, they will experience less major changes during the process of evolution. That's because their bodies are already close to perfection. Humans are like that. That's why our appearances don't really change as our cultivation improves. When you develop a new appearance because of your cultivation, it suggests that your body has experienced a drastic change. The change you're experiencing is indeed beneficial, and it's a change that was sparked from a great enhancement in your powers. I can confirm that you'll become a 7-ringed soul sage before you're 30 years old. When that happens, the abilities of your twin martial souls and ultimate martial soul will be fully realized, and you'll be a truly strong individual. You'll become a titled Doluor before you're 40. In the continent, a 40-year-old titled Doluor isn't considered very young. However, I've not heard of anyone with an ultimate martial soul who has become a titled Doluor before the age of 40. This is the benefit from this evolution." Hui Yuhao wasn't basking in delight from the appraisal that Niu Qian was giving him. On the contrary, he asked thoughtfully, "Uncle Niu, does this also mean that there are others who evolve in other aspects due to unwanted changes that occurred because of their cultivation?" Niu Qian nodded and said, "There are many cultivation methods in our world. There are also various forms of each method. You have heard of the body sect. They experience changes like you've experienced. That's also a reason why they are so powerful. Their evolution is the second awakening of their body souls. Although I'm unsure what kind of secret technique they use to complete it, those who undergo the second awakening will experience a significant increase in their abilities. Even their soul rings will evolve and change, along with their martial souls. That's why the perfect ratio of soul rings is different for body sect members. The soul masters from the body sect can even compare to evil soul masters in terms of individual fighting strength." Hui Yuhao was impressed by this, and asked, "Uncle Niu, can evil soul masters be influenced by changes in their cultivation?" Niu Qian replied, "Of course. Furthermore, evil soul masters are likely to be the affected the most. Most evil martial souls aren't innately evil. This is also the same for soul masters. They're only categorized as evil soul masters due to the special evolutionary characteristics of their martial souls. For example, the cultivation of some martial souls requires fresh blood, while some require one to constantly kill. Once those with such martial souls start to become greedy, they will sink further and further into depravity. When that happens, they will become evil soul masters. As their cultivation increases, they will develop a vicious aura. Their demeanor and personalities will also start to change due to that influence. That's why it's very easy to tell when one is really an evil soul master. Their vicious auras are usually tainted with a dark green. With your detection abilities, you can be more aware in the future. Once you see a dark green color flashing across a soul master's face, it's almost certain that he's an evil soul master, all right?" Hui Yuhao nodded. Niu Qian's guidance had deepened his understanding of martial souls. He was much more impressed by this clear sky sect master. "Are the two of you done? Yuhao, bring her to me. She's making me dizzy from all the flying." Tai Tan was a little displeased as he looked at Hui Yuhao. Hui Yuhao smiled and said, "Uncle Tai, you really like Snow Lady. Snow Lady, come." He gestured to her. She turned into a streak of orange flowing light, and came back to Hui Yuhao. She grabbed his hand before sitting on his arm. She felt like a real person this time, and was no longer the untouchable energy body that she had previously. Her smooth skin was tightly pressed against his arm. It was extremely comfortable. Hui Yuhao couldn't help but peck her cheek. Her delicate skin and the aromatic milky scent that came from her left him content despite himself. Yi. The snow lady was a little unhappy, as she waved her fist at Hui Yuhao before rubbing her face. Hui Yuhao was amused as he asked, "Didn't you call me daddy?" "Am I that dirty, Yi?" the snow lady shouted again. He understood what she was saying this time. Her reply was very simple. She said that she was being molested. When Titan saw Hui Yuhao kissing the snow lady on the cheek, he couldn't help but come over and ask, "Snow lady, give granddaddy a kiss too. I'll give you whatever you want. How about that?" He subconsciously assumed his seniority as he addressed her. The snow lady could understand his words. She twisted her head and looked at Titan's obsequious smile. She pointed at him and screamed, "Yi." A blue light flashed, and Titan was turned into an ice sculpture once again. Niu Qian asked, "What did she say?" Hui Yuhao couldn't help but laugh. Before Titan broke out from the ice, he whispered, "She said pervert, ha 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 ha." Niu Qian laughed loudly, scaring the snow lady. She quickly crawled her way into Hui Yuhao's arms. Titan soon broke free from the ice, and was furious. "Little girl, this is unfair. He kissed you, but you only rubbed your face. Why did you freeze me? Is it my fault that I'm ugly?" Yi. The snow lady crawled out of Hui Yuhao's arms and shouted at Titan while pointing at him. "What did she say?" Titan asked Hui Yuhao to translate it for him. Hui Yuhao's expression turned a little weird, as if he were suppressing something. "What did she say?" Titan continued to probe. Hui Yuhao asked, "Uncle Tai, do you really want to know?" "You can't get angry." Titan lifted his chest and said, "Am I that easily infuriated?" Hui Yuhao answered, "She's roughly trying to say that it's not your fault that you're ugly, but it's your fault that you're scaring others." Titan's face stiffened. Niu Qian had just stopped laughing, but he started to chuckle after hearing Hui Yuhao's words. He rested one arm on Titan's shoulder and used his other arm to hold his stomach. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't because he was laughing. Titan stared fiercely at the snow lady. After keeping it in for half a day, his face was completely red. However, he didn't erupt in anger, and only shouted, "I give her to you." The snow lady stuck her tongue out at him. She appeared unbothered as she laid in Hui Yuhao's arms. She was so cute that Niu Qian's eyes were shining brightly. Titan turned to Niu Qian. "Elder brother, I can't take it anymore. No, we need to think of a way. I must create a spirit, too. This is too interesting. I didn't know martial souls could be so fun." Niu Qian snapped, "Do you think it's so easy to create one? Can you just get rid of your soul rings just like that? Furthermore, this spirit is formed from a soul beast. Where can you find such a pretty, human form soul beast like the snow lady? If you find a tiger or lion, your spirit will look just like them." We helped Yuhao test the various characteristics of this spirit out of urgency. We can start with the junior disciples and see if it's possible to add a spirit. As for yourself, forget it. Titan was a little indignant as he said, "If I had known that, I wouldn't have asked Wang Dong to get his 5th soul ring. Isn't a spirit better?" Niu Qian glared at him, and a strong aura was suddenly released. He said, "Don't make it sound so easy. This spirit is very magical. Do you think it's so easy to create one like her? Yuhao, let's go. Let's test how useful your little orange baby is in a live fight. Let's also see what other changes she can bring, okay?" Hui Yuhao agreed. It was definitely a good thing that the two sect masters were willing to test how good his spirit was. With their level of control over their soul power, he wouldn't have to worry about getting hurt. Titan seemed a little devious as he looked at Hui Yuhao. He said, "Kid, I can't bear to hurt this little wretch. As her father, you need to tolerate the hits for her." He. Clear Sky Peak. Peak of the mountain. It couldn't be felt in Clear Sky Castle, but the moist, chilly wind was immediately obvious once someone stepped outside. Clear Sky Castle was constructed from some unknown material that warded away the chill and the damp, both of which were evident and uncomfortable after leaving the comfort of those walls. Of course, this was nothing for Hu Yuhao, who had his ultimate ice. He was in fact used to fighting in such a cold environment. The Snow Lady didn't seem to feel cold after leaving the castle, either. The orange-gold light from her body shone even more brightly in the chilling wind. The gentle light accentuated her small figure. Everyone's attention was drawn to her at this moment. Niu Qian said, "Yuhao, attack me. Do your best. I'll try to retaliate accordingly." "No. Elder brother, let me do it." Tai Tan wasn't going to stand on ceremony. After being frozen by the Snow Lady several times, he was furious. Niu Qian glanced at him and said, "You can do it too, but there's a condition. You can't use your martial soul. You can only use your own strength, okay?" Tai Tan agreed without any hesitation. With his cultivation, he was still very strong even if he didn't use his martial soul. Most soul sages and soul doluor wouldn't have a fighting chance against him, even without his martial soul. Niu Qian turned to Hu Yuhao and said, "I heard Wang Dong say that you're also a soul engineer. You can unleash everything against Tai Tan. Don't worry about hurting him. You can only develop her potential by giving your all. Tai Tan won't hurt you for real, either. I'll be watching him from the side, all right?" "Thanks, Uncle Niu." Hu Yuhao wasn't very worried. If the two of them wanted to harm him, they didn't have to do this. They could just attack him. Tai Tan stretched out, and his attention moved from Hu Yuhao to the Snow Lady. He extended his right index finger, and hooked it at her in a provocative gesture. She wasn't provoked. She only stuck her tongue out at him and made a clown face. This was Hu Yuhao's first time fighting with the Snow Lady. He wasn't tense, but excited. He took in a deep breath, and his aura suddenly changed. A layer of dim golden light was released, engulfing his entire body. His spiritual energy was greatly enhanced. Niu Qian looked and nodded his head. The combination of Hu Yuhao's spiritual and soul power was known to him as fighting will. Without a doubt, Hu Yuhao's fighting will was way beyond that of most people. He didn't appear afraid at all, even though he was up against Tai Tan. On the contrary, his fighting will grew even stronger. He was worth complimenting just based on this point. "Come on, kid," Tai Tan gestured at Yuhao. His arms were at his sides, and his dark yellow eyes held a strong fighting intent. At this moment, Hu Yuhao felt as if he had returned to the moment he first saw Tai Tan, when he entered the Clear Sky Castle. Even though Tai Tan didn't unleash his martial soul, the spiritual suppression that he unleashed was bearing down on Hu Yuhao. Hu Yuhao released golden light, along with his spirit eyes. In front of Niu Qian and Tai Tan, there was nothing for him to hide. 1 white and 3 black soul rings surfaced on his body. What drew the two elders' attention wasn't the 3 black soul rings, but the white one. With their abilities, they could tell that it wasn't just a 10-year soul ring. However, they couldn't tell what level it actually was. The orange-gold Snow Emperor spirit was enough to astonish them. However, neither of them had thought that Hu Yuhao had another strange soul ring on him. Tan Qian's aura relaxed a little in his surprise. Hu Yuhao exploited this opportunity to burst out like a bolt of lightning. He used all his strength right from the start. As he recalled what Wang Dong had said, he didn't use soul tools, using his own capabilities as a soul master to fight. He was like a vigorous panther as he leapt forward. The golden light from his body became more and more intense as he advanced. He drew back his right fist forcefully, like a sun shining brighter and brighter. At this moment, he managed to overcome Tai Tan's spiritual suppression and burst towards him like a golden meteor. "Nice move." Tai Tan shouted. After the Destiny Soul Gaze, a streak of white light shot out from the Eye of Destiny. Mass Enfeeblement, single target version. The rise in his spiritual power increased Hu Yuhao's control of his soul skills along with it. This was his first time converting a mass control type skill into a single target control type soul skill. He didn't expect it to succeed. However, he sensed that he needed to open his Eye of Destiny before he could complete this skill, given his current spiritual power and his control over it. He couldn't do it just based on his spirit eyes. In addition to the golden skull above his head, there was now another layer of blurry white light around Tai Tan's body. Even his strong suppression had become weaker, and his aura fell. However, he wasn't bothered and smirked at Hu Yuhao before hooking his finger at him. Hu Yuhao moved and switched his martial soul. 1 red and 4 orange soul rings suddenly rose up around him. His entire aura changed. The chilly wind at the peak of the mountain suddenly became harsher. The wind wasn't blowing stronger, but its temperature had dipped even further. Titan shut his eyes before shouting, "Open." He didn't really do anything, but the white light around his body scattered. This was the gap between their abilities. Even though he hadn't unleashed his martial soul, his soul and spiritual power was still beyond the control of Hui Yuhao's control-type soul skill. Hui Yuhao's mass enfeeblement was strong, but it didn't have much of an effect due to the gap in their cultivations. However, the Destiny Soul Gaze revealed its strength at this point. While enfeeblement was overcome, the golden skull still continued to hover above Titan. Hui Yuhao burst towards Titan again. His eyes were now covered by a layer of azure green light. Diamond ice crystals engulfed his entire body. It was the Ice Empress armor. His Ice Empress pincer had also been unleashed. An extreme chill was released from his body. Since he couldn't threaten his opponent using pure fighting techniques, he needed to change his fighting methods. As he used the Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track, his figure suddenly turned illusory. Titan and Niu Tian revealed smiles on their faces when they saw the Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track. It was like they had seen something they were very familiar with. Against Titan, Hui Yuhao didn't have to hold back, and used the complete version of the Dark Golden Terraclaws immediately. He had been saving this attack for a long time. The huge claws reached out over 10 meters, and the dark golden light they emitted seemed like they wanted to cut heaven and earth apart. Titan was shocked. As he panicked, he lifted his left arm to block. "Be careful." Hui Yuhao couldn't help but exclaim. He only had one goal in challenging Titan. He would be pleased as long as he could force Titan's martial soul out. However, the man didn't unleash his martial soul even under such a situation. On the other hand, he used his body to block the Dark Golden Terraclaw's Shorekill technique. However, Hui Yuhao's words soon stuck in his mouth. As the lights of the claw flashed by, they left 5 marks on the ground. The loud boom caused the mountain peak to shake slightly. And what about Titan? He was standing there as if nothing had happened. There were only a few tears on his shirt. "Kid, you're going to have to pay me for this shirt." Titan laughed. Seeing that he was fine, Hui Yuhao immediately unleashed his next attack. Azure green light engulfed his body, and a streak of icy blue light that used his backbone as a cross-section shot out. Tapping into the domain of perpetual ice, this azure beam absorbed all the moisture in the air as it struck at Titan. Titan staggered a little as he was stunned once again. However, the Ice Empress wrath didn't cause any harm to him. It didn't even manage to restrict him. Titan was still fine as he stood where he was. Hui Yuhao was getting a little dejected. He was using all the methods at his disposal. He didn't use spiritual shock, because he knew that he was only going to trouble himself if he used it. Given the huge gap in their spiritual powers, unless he used soul tools, he didn't have any stronger capabilities to continue fighting. At this point, he realized that his skills were useless in front of a truly strong individual. It wasn't that they were lousy, it was that his cultivation was still lacking. However, it wasn't all bad news. In this series of attacks, Hui Yuhao could sense the changes in this cultivation after he gained his 5th soul ring. The depletion of his soul power when using soul skills had dropped significantly. Even after using all his previous attacks, he had only expended about 20% of his soul power, even though every skill he used was rather strong. He had even used the Eye of Destiny. In the past, that alone would have used up half of his soul power. However, nothing seemed to affect Titan at all. At this point, the Snow Lady's voice rose. She drifted over in front of Hui Yuhao, unconvinced as she pointed her finger at herself. Hui Yuhao laughed. "Are you saying there's still you? Where did you go just now?" The Snow Lady made another small action that made Titan cringe. She lowered her head and pointed her 2 index fingers to the front, wearing an indignant look on her face. Hui Yuhao rushed to comfort her. "Don't worry. We are too far behind Uncle Tai. It's normal that we're losing. Yi, Yi Snow Lady shouted again. Even Titan could tell that she wasn't pleased from her voice. "What is she saying?" Titan asked curiously. Hui Yuhao translated. "She asked me to try again." Titan chortled and said, "Come on, try again." "Oh yes. I was too bothered with assessing your abilities, and forgot to whack you to vent my anger." Hui Yuhao couldn't help but laugh. While Titan's temper seemed very short, he was in fact quite cute. Hui Yuhao glanced at the Snow Lady and said, I shall depend on you, then, yi-ya-ya. The Snow Lady lifted her chest, and her white robe shook slightly. If one didn't know that she was a spirit, he might think that her arms and legs were getting cold from being exposed. Hui Yuhao squinted his eyes and quickly connected his mind with hers. He was sensing her opinion. A stunned look flashed across his eyes. In the next moment, the Snow Lady had already lifted her right hand. She looked very amusing as she lifted her right arm, especially when she extended her little fingers to point into the sky. Her deep blue eyes appeared very serious, but there was only one word to describe her: too cute. Tai Tan felt that he had great affinity with her. No matter how he looked at her, he absolutely adored her. Furthermore, he liked her the more she pranked him. Yi-ya-ya, the Snow Lady shouted, and a magical scene occurred. Azure green light expanded from Hui Yuhao's body. It was the domain of perpetual ice. At the same time, an intense orange-gold light shot out from the Snow Lady's body. The second out of the 4 orange-gold soul rings on Hui Yuhao's body started to shine very brightly. The temperature in the air dropped significantly, and it seemed to have fallen below -20 degrees Celsius. Furthermore, this new temperature covered all of Clear Sky Peak. The mountaintop became a world of ice and snow. Heavy snow raged under the effect of the strong winds. The 3 of them even lost track of where the others were. Even Tai Tan and Niu Qian needed to circulate their soul power to resist the cold under such conditions. Tai Tan was shocked to find out that he couldn't pinpoint Hui Yuhao's position. At this level, one didn't need his eyes to know his opponent's position. He could feel it. However, he couldn't sense anything in this brutal snowstorm. It was as if his senses were sealed. At this moment, Hui Yuhao realized what the greatest strength of the Snow Lady was: her ability to complement him perfectly. The Snow Lady didn't just bring him soul skills. She could use her soul skills to assist Hui Yuhao, supplementing his abilities precisely. There was a secret spell in Shrek Academy's inner courtyard that allowed one to coordinate several soul skills with their body. However, the effects of the soul skills were additional. The Snow Lady's help enabled Hui Yuhao's abilities to multiply all by herself. Although the Snow Empress was newly created, her presence seemed to be similar to a martial soul fusion, which he was experienced at doing with Wang Dong. Hui Yuhao opened his mind and followed her will. He wanted to see what abilities she'd show him. When the Snow Lady moved, his body moved alongside hers. Hui Yuhao immediately felt his body become lighter, and felt himself drift into the air like a snowflake. His movements also complemented the dancing snowflakes that filled the air. Hui Yuhao gradually felt like he was becoming one with heaven in this snow-white world. A moment later, he also began to feel a strange force gathering in his left hand. This force didn't originate from his body, but rather from the chill in the snowy dance of ultimate ice. Hui Yuhao's hands would become very smooth and shiny when he used the mysterious jade hands, while his palm would be covered in a layer of diamond-like ice crystals when he used the Ice Empress pincer. At this moment, both the mysterious jade hands and the Ice Empress pincer had been activated. However, they were present in a special form. Not only was Hui Yuhao's left hand as smooth and shiny as jade, but it was also as white as snow. It was as if it had been carved from a precious piece of white jade. Tai Tan remained where he was while using his soul power to resist the extreme cold attempting to invade his body. As he spread his senses, he tried to figure out where Hui Yuhao was. If he'd only admired Hui Yuhao before, then he was completely astonished now. His spiritual sense could be ranked amongst the top 10 on the continent, yet he couldn't even catch a glimpse of Hui Yuhao in this domain. It was as if he'd completely assimilated himself into this world of ice and snow. The delicate snowflakes in the air continued to incessantly unleash strong attacks. Amidst the cold, they created sparks as they flitted past Tai Tan. They were evidently very powerful. Niu Qian was equally shocked. He'd been brothers with Tai Tan for many years, and had previously been standing very close to him. Even though he couldn't tell where Tai Tan was in the domain, he knew for sure that Tai Tan hadn't moved. He took a few steps until he was beside Tai Tan. Only then could he make out the vague silhouette of his brother. Suddenly, the raging snowstorm stopped in an indescribable manner. The instant that it did, it was as if time and space had frozen. Every single snowflake froze in mid-air, while the chilly wind immediately came to a halt. This happened so abruptly that both Niu Qian and Tai Tan were momentarily shocked. Without any warning, the snowflakes were crushed, and their power disappeared, the powdery ice in the sky blurring their vision once again. The chill in the snowflakes seemed to have disappeared too, and the air suddenly felt much warmer. Be careful, this is the gentleness amidst warmth, snowless glacier. Niu Qian suddenly shouted. Tai Tan was petrified. Something serious must have been happened since Niu Qian had warned him. After all, he had acute senses too. When his sense of crisis appeared, he lifted his right arm and to move it through the air. Suddenly, he felt his right arm rapidly cooling down. He groaned and then swept it in front of him yet again. As his vision cleared up, he saw Hui Yuhao's body being pushed aside. The moment that he did, he lost all feeling in his right arm. Everything happened nearly instantly. When Tai Tan saw Hui Yuhao and the transformed Snow Lady, Hui Yuhao had already lifted his right hand high into the air. The now older Snow Empress also lifted her right arm. Her figure seemed to fuse with Hui Yuhao's, and a deep blue sword that seemed to be entirely made up of ice crystals appeared in Hui Yuhao's hand. Before Niu Qian and Tai Tan could take a clear look at the sword, Hui Yuhao had already swung it. A deep blue light appeared and created a fan-like projection that gradually grew lighter as it extended until it was finally white. As the frightening sword light swept through the air, turtle-like patterns appeared. It was as if the air was frozen and then cut apart. Unparalleled chill, Emperor Sword. Niu Qian said almost immediately. The Snow Lady detached from Hui Yuhao's body as soon as he swung the sword. She then pointed her left hand at Tai Tan, while Hui Yuhao subconsciously lifted his left hand. However, he realized that something was amiss and immediately exclaimed, "Snow Lady, we can't do that." The Snow Lady hesitated for a moment, then turned back to face him. Bam! A loud boom came from Tai Tan's direction, who'd lifted his left arm to try and resist the now white sword light. Hui Yuhao's sword had also disappeared once he'd created the sword light. Tai Tan's body expanded to twice its size as he readied himself, and black hair that shone with a metallic glow engulfed his body. His burly body was immediately filled with a terrifying yet dominant aura, while his right arm began to defrost at an astonishing speed. However, he was still turned into an ice sculpture the moment that the deep blue sword light struck him, despite the fact that he'd unleashed his martial soul. He took a full second to break free from the ice. This second was incredibly important. This was the second after Tai Tan had unleashed his martial soul. As a transcendent Doluo, his abilities were obviously immense. However, he'd been stopped by Hui Yuhao and the Snow Empress spirit for an entire second. Impressive. Tai Tan didn't attack Hui Yuhao. At the moment, he didn't have any intention of attacking him. Rather, he was completely shocked. The Snow Lady shrunk down and returned to her infant state. As she returned to Hui Yuhao's side, she was evidently fatigued. She appeared to be unhappy as she looked at Hui Yuhao, and even used her hand to mess up his hair. "Uncle Tai isn't an enemy," Hui Yuhao said seriously. "How could we hurt him?" Tai Tan almost spat blood when he heard him. "What's going on? Hurt me? Am I the titled Doluo, or is he the titled Doluo?" Tai Tan was unhappy and shouted, "Rascal, show me what else you've got." "Use what? You've already lost." Niu Qian kicked Tai Tan's butt, causing him to reel. "How did I lose?" Tai Tan turned and glared at him, but seemed to realize something very quickly. His face turned red. It was subconscious, it was subconscious. Niu Qian snapped, "Do you always have to be a sore loser? If you lost, you lost. There's no need to make up excuses. Furthermore, your loss was justified. Soul skills must have been unleashed repeatedly when the Snow Lady pointed at you. That strike could have even hurt you. You must have also released your martial soul, because you felt a sense of crisis. Am I right? Otherwise, what subconscious feeling are you talking about? That seems to be the case." Tai Tan was honest and didn't deny it. Niu Qian looked at Hui Yuhao. "How did you do it? How do you feel? Is there anything that you haven't used? If I'm not wrong, the two of you have only used 3 soul skills. There should still be 1 left." The Snow Lady had added 4 soul rings to Hui Yuhao's Ice Empress. Hui Yuhao shook his head. For some unknown reason, the Snow Lady can't unleash her 4th soul skill. She can't tell what's going on either. Niu Qian gestured towards him, and he immediately walked over. The Snow Empress 3 ultimate techniques. Hui Yuhao was stunned as he looked at Niu Qian. He'd heard the names of every soul skill he unleashed when Niu Qian shouted them previously. He didn't know what they were, thus wanted to use this time to find out. Oh. It seems that Shrek Academy didn't fully explain the situation regarding the 10 great savage beasts. Niu Qian replied. Niu Qian said, in the extreme north, there are 3 strong soul beasts known as the 3 heavenly kings of the extreme north. You should know this. They are the Snow Empress, the Ice Empress and the Titan Snow Devil King. Among the 3 of them, the Snow Empress and Ice Empress are also among the 10 great savage beasts, and are some of the strongest soul beasts around. Your Ice Empress came from the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. You should be clear about its abilities. The Snow Empress is even more legendary than the Ice Empress. There's a sentence that's commonly used to describe the Snow Empress' 3 ultimate techniques: Sword and Palm sends the sky into a chill, the Empress Sword, Palm, and Chill Empress Chill is the domain type skill that you teamed up with her to unleash. However, I can tell that this skill has undergone some transformations after it fused with your Ice Jade Empress Scorpion. It's become stronger. Otherwise, it would be impossible for you to possess such a strong domain type soul skill with your current cultivation. The domain type skill that's called the Empress Chill is also known as the Snowy Dance of Ultimate Ice. According to legend, the Snow Empress can change the region in the extreme north that's most suitable for her to fight in into her domain. As snowflakes dance in the air, that domain becomes a forbidden ground. Even sunlight can't compare to it. The Empress Palm was the palm you used on Titan previously. There are many stories surrounding the Empress Palm. It is said that no one is immune to it. The only way to survive it is to avoid getting struck by it. While it's very strong, it's limited by the fact that it has to strike the opponent before its power can be unleashed. The name of this Empress Palm is called Snowless Glacier. The strike that you use to complement the Snowy Dance of Ultimate Ice is very strong. It seemed to compress the entire domain into it. It was also my first time experiencing the power of the Snowless Glacier. If the Snow Empress was the one using it, I don't think we could have avoided it even if we tried our best. The Empress Sword was the last skill you used. Unparalleled Chill, Empress Sword. There's no sword that can compare to it. It's really very strong. Even Titan had to unleash his martial soul before he could resist that strike. However, he was still frozen in place. I think it's also very difficult for a Soul Emperor to resist this strike of yours. With these 3 soul skills, I believe you've managed to unleash the capabilities of ice to their fullest. Hui Yuhao repeated what Niu Qian had said and committed it to memory. Sword and Palm sends the sky into a chill, the Empress Sword, Palm, and Chill the Snow Empress' 3 ultimate techniques were very domineering. However, the Snow Empress had added 4 soul rings to his body. What did the last orange gold soul ring represent? Hui Yuhao knew how strong the 3 soul skills he had used were. Their powers were greater than all the ice-type soul skills he possessed. Not only this, but he also felt that the Ice Empress soul skills were much stronger with the help of the Snow Lady. It was like how the Eye of Destiny enhanced the Spirit Eye's soul skills. Even the 2 sect masters were awed. This time, Hui Yuhao's reward was greater than expected. Evidently, the completion of the Snow Empress spirit seemed to be better than if he had absorbed the Snow Empress and removed the seal on her before absorbing her soul bone. The Snow Lady's reply to him was very simple. She lowered her head instantly and extended her index fingers, before pressing them together while showing an indignant look. It was like she was telling him to punish her, because she did something wrong. Titan felt a gust of breath rising to his chest as he saw her, but he forced it down. He had to bear it no matter how uncomfortable it was. He couldn't possibly lose his temper in front of her. As Niu Qian held in his laughter in one side, he was also shocked. This ice explosion technique was impressive. Both he and Titan knew what kind of soul skill it was, just like how the Snow Empress' 3 ultimate techniques were very representative of the Snow Lady. The Ice Jade Empress Scorpion's lineage also had their symbolic soul skills. While the Ice Jade Empress Scorpion's lineage had more soul skills than the Ice Sky Snow Lady's lineage, the ice explosion technique was undoubtedly the strongest among all those that Hui Yuhao had mastered to this point. Once one was infected by it, they would have to bear the backlash of the explosion of their own soul power no matter how strong they were. No matter how strong one's defenses were, there was no way to defend against an internal explosion of one's own soul power. If it was only the ice explosion technique, Niu Qian and Titan wouldn't be afraid, given their cultivations. That was because the ice explosion technique couldn't overcome the external defenses of their soul power. If they couldn't be frozen, the ice explosion technique couldn't be poured into their bodies. However, when the ice explosion technique fused with the Empress Palm and Snowless Glacier, it would be very difficult for them to neutralize it. There was only one way to deal with it: prevent Hui Yuhao's left hand from hitting them. It would be very easy to avoid being struck by his hand now that they knew the secret. However, no one else in the world knew about it. Tai Tan glared at the Snow Lady for a long time, but he couldn't spout anything harsh. His expression turned dismal, and he finally said, "You've won." After he finished speaking, he turned around with a snort